We are the University of Dayton Game Development Club, meeting today with Ramon or Ray from RayLib. Um, yeah, so the University of Dayton Game Development Club, we are a group of students, undergraduate students who collaborate together to work on game jams. We previously did a game in Unity, and then currently we're working on an arcade cabinet. We're going to build an arcade cabinet from scratch and put it in the student union. And right now we're working on a fighting game that we can put on the cabinet and have like two players play the fighting game together. Um, but yeah, so Ray, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Yeah, sure, Ryan. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to this small talk or chat. My name is Ramon. You can call me Ray. I studied electronic engineering, but I work in the video game industry from some years. Actually, I was working in EA for several years. But for the last 10, 12, maybe 13 years of my life, I've been mostly focused on education. I've been teaching video game development. Usually, I start teaching to students with no previous coding knowledge, mostly focused on art. And since the moment I start teaching, I had to teach coding to younger students, and I was checking the available at the moment in the market. None of them fit in my teaching style, so I decided to create a small library for the job. And yeah, that library was really it started as a weekend project, and yeah, it's been almost 12 years working on that. Yeah, that's it.
That's awesome,
Mostly
yeah.
my story.
So you said RayLib started as kind of like a small project for you to use as like a teaching tool for other students.
Yeah, that's it. I'm at some point in my career, actually, I had published several games to the market, and then I meet a school that was starting a video games development course, and they asked me to be teaching some programming subjects to art students, and I just got the job. And yeah, when I started, the students had no previous knowledge. They were mostly, the school was actually mostly focused on art. So most of the students came with that idea to do art, and I had to teach video games programming. And actually, it was quite difficult for me because it was okay. All the students hate my subject. They don't want to learn coding, but I still have to teach them coding, and they are really focused on art, so they don't like coding or they don't know much about coding, right? So what can I do? So I start evaluating different options. I think, okay, let's start with something super simple. I didn't want to go the route of some drag and drop. I wanted something like, okay, I have to teach coding, so I want to teach actual writing or code writing. So I decided to start with C because I thought it was easy enough with procedural programming, just calling instructions and that. And after a while, starting with the language and teaching some C, one of the students just came to me with a small library called Borland Graphics Interface. It's a library from the 70s, but actually it's very small, very simple, easy to use. You got just a couple of functions like init, close, rectangle, circle. So it has like 20 functions or 40 functions, something like that. And yeah, I tried that with the students and it worked super good. The students were super engaged to be able to do things on the screen super fast. And when I saw that, I think, oh, that's interesting. Maybe that library is super old. It's from the 70s. It's very limited in many aspects. But I got some OpenGL knowledge. I got some code at home, and I had worked in the past a lot XNA library, a library from Microsoft. It was the precursor of a monogame. And I thought, okay, let's do a small weekend project and let's create a small library that Borland graphics interface and inspired in XNA. Um, yeah, let's try to put something down and let's see how it works. And yeah, actually, that was after my first year teaching. That it was that summer that I started that library as a weekend project called Daily. And yeah, and by September, October that same year, it was 2013, I started using it at class. And yeah, it works super good. It was a complete success. The students really love it, really like it. They were able to put things on the screen super fast. They really engaged with the library and start asking for improvements, additions, changing function, giving me a lot of feedback. And yeah, I saw that, and it was really motivating to see that. Okay, let's improve that a bit. Okay, let's add this part. Let's improve that part. Let's try to work. And yeah, and that moment, I kept working as a teacher in that place for about 6 years, and I was keep improving the library along the time, adding features with the students, getting the feedback. It's a quite organic process that, yeah, for me was like a hobby. Well, not like a hobby. Actually, it was a hobby. Keep improving that small library, and yeah, and seeing the results with the students was really, really motivating. And yeah, and it's been almost 12 years now.
Yeah, that's really awesome. It actually like hearing you describe the design philosophy, right, of like students who are not super familiar and you want to give them an interface that makes it easy for them to put something on the screen to see results quickly. It reminds me of like P5 JS, like processing. Are you familiar with yeah.
Well, actually, I've been discovering along the time several libraries that are somewhat similar to Rails in many aspects. I discovered processing, P5, Open Framework, Log2D. I mean, I've seen along the year that actually there are many libraries that start with that approach. But really being C, it's a big difference. It makes a big difference in comparison to those other libraries.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it can be binded to many other languages, it can be ported to many platforms. So it really opened the door, being C, opened the door for RayLib for a big expansion. Once it started to become popular, it helped to expand the library a lot in many directions.
Yeah. I'm curious, that makes me wonder. So I have worked on some graphic stuff in C before too, and I've also recognized and appreciated the flexibility of cross-compiling to different platforms. So I know that the RayLib examples also support WebAssembly, so you can like play them in the browser. But I'm curious, like over the years, has there been any interesting or unique platforms that you've seen people in the community or you yourself have ported RayLib to?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Actually, just recently for the last release, almost like it was in November, last release. For last release, there was one of the big features of the release was really working on Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, PSP, PS Vita. So lot of retro that for me it was actually I did not those works. They were done by some people in the community, but for me it was like it's well, it was super incredible. I mean, the Dreamcast was one of the consoles I had back in the day that were like amazing, and seeing Rayleigh running in the Dreamcast was like, oh, I cannot believe that. That's it's amazing.
Yeah, that must feel like really surreal for you to see, like especially starting it as like a small project and then obviously like having the community grow to such an extent that people are porting it to platforms you never would have thought possible.
Yeah, actually, yeah, altogether, it's quite surreal for me because I've seen the growth of the library and the growth in popularity and the growth of the community along 12 years. So in certain way, it has not been like a boom in popularity from one day to another. I mean, it's been a long time. So for me, really that weekend project, you know, I mean, I, at some point it becomes super popular. Actually, the last few months, has it has become even more popular. And for me, it's, oh, come on. I mean, it's a C library to just put some graphics in the screen. I mean, it's not something that spectacular in some way. I mean, yeah, for me, it has been kind of overwhelming, you know, to
Yeah.
see that. Okay, it's okay. Yeah, surreal. It's probably the right word for that.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm kind of curious. So you briefly touched on earlier, after the initial version of RayLib, you were kind of engaging with your students who were saying like, "Hey, you should improve this, you should add this, you should change this." Was that kind of where you really started to like snowball in adding features and adding new layers into RayLib? And what did that process look like?
Yeah, mostly that was the start to adding new features. Also, one important thing to note in that feedback is that most of those feedback came from students with no previous coding knowledge, with an art profile. So they had a mindset very different from a programmer. So they were asking for things that maybe a person with experience in programming or with another kind of mindset would not ask for, you know? So I think that's important because it was really was very modeled in some way with that, with that kind of feedback from people with no previous knowledge, very focused on art. And yeah, it was designed this way and features were added in following those that feedback. But then another thing that influenced a lot the library was things that were interesting. For example, I get an Android phone and I thought, okay, let's try to port it to Android. It was released the Raspberry Pi, the small computer, the Raspberry Pi, and it goes, oh, okay, I'm an electronic engineer, so I really like to play with electronics and small devices and embedded devices and these kind of things. You go, okay, let's try it. It's a challenge. Let's try to port really to that small device and let's see what we will just 256 megabytes of RAM and let's see what we can do. Then so at the moment starting that allowed file into web. It was also a challenge for me. Okay, let's try making it run on web. So it was kind of a mixture of two things, all the feedback I was receiving from the students, but also my own interest that keep me motivated uh, to work on that.
Yeah.
And then it kept growing, yeah.
Yeah. I think we're maybe a lot alike in that sense, where I have been working on an engine, like a smaller engine, in C for like 2 years, and I've kind of experienced the same thing where as I'm going along, I will see something online or I will see something in a specification somewhere, and I'm like, okay, I'm about to dedicate 3 months to some random side tangent, like making a Lua API or making a physics engine. And I'm curious, like, I mean, obviously, you said you've had the same thing where the growth of RayLib has been kind of enhanced by you saying like, well, now I have an Android phone, I want to port to Android. But how do you manage like the scope creep that comes along with like, I want to do 100 different things at once? And has that ever been a problem?
um, it's not easy. uh, Actually, I always try to go to what motivates me the most. Okay, because I think it's been a long time. Actually, at the moment, it's been 12 years. In that time, motivation has been going up and down. But to keep working on the project, I always try to find ways to stay motivated. So, okay, let's work in that part. Okay, let's work in this new feature or this new platform. Or, okay, now maybe I can build some tools that something that I've been doing for the last few years. Maybe I can build some tools using Rayleigh. And so I try how the library works and also build something that seems interesting to me. So I've been moving along the times with the library, trying to find the different paths that keep me motivated to work in RayLib. I think that's the best. I think that's the best solution. I mean, if you're working in a project and you are not motivated, you can abandon it after a while. It's not it's not enjoyable all the time. It's not enjoyable. You have to face challenge. You have to face issues. At some point, you have a lot of work reviewing PRs, reviewing issues, setting up environments. Um, that's not that fun. So I always try to find some things that keep me motivated.
Yeah. How do you, I guess I'm curious, like, how do you keep a healthy balance of time that you spend on RayLib and how do you avoid burnout? Because I imagine like as a project like this grows that maybe my expectations for myself would probably also grow and make it a little bit hard for me to actually, stay consistent and not burn out. So has that ever
Uh,
been a challenge for you?
yeah, it's been, I think, it's been. But as I said, I always try to find things that keep me motivated. Also, I have to say that uh, I've been working for some moments full time on the library, but I also been working as a contract, doing contract work as a teacher or doing consulting. So I've not been working focused on the library all the time. So I think trying to find that balance to do things, uh, different things along the time, helps you to keep working on that project and keep supporting it. Also, there has been for the last maybe 1 or 2 years, my focus on Railib has not been fully focused. I've mostly been reviewing issues, reviewing PRs, talking with contributors. I like to do a lot of well, I learned that concept a while ago, that is what it's called code gardening, like reviewing the formatting of the code, how everything is organized, maybe that function, if it can somewhat be um, optimized, or maybe adding some comment. I like to do this kind of work that it's not like, it does not feel like work, but it's kind of more light, you know? And I also been working in the I also been working with the tools in the tools development. I have a set of, I got like a dozen tools published at the moment, and I keep working on tool on another tool, and they are very different for very different things, always related to video game development. But for example, one tool is for and these kind of topics that I didn't know about them, and I learned about them, and that kept me kept me engaged for several months. Then I got the sound generator, I got texture packer, text viewer, shaders viewer. So I've kept moving to different related fields. I think that that was the best option. Also, for the last few years, I've spent a lot of time in the Discord community. I've been more in Reddit, Twitter, Blue Sky. So for the last few years, I also spent a lot of time in the community. That it's also a completely different kind of work. So yeah, I think that somewhat try to find, I try to stay motivated to avoid burnout and to avoid just giving up with everything. And well, and from time to time, I just stop working on that, and I go to the land. I got a small piece of land in my town with olive trees, and I can just go there and just relax and touch grass, and just try to
Nice.
disconnect of everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw something that I thought was really funny a couple months ago was I got a notification from the RayLib Discord server from you where you
There are
said
lots
like,
of unification
yeah,
notifications in there.
it said like, hey guys, I'm not going to be around for the next few days. I'm going to like harvest cranberries on a farm. And I was like,
Henry? Well, no, it was probably olives. I went to pick up
Oh,
olives. Yeah,
it
because
was, yeah.
I got olive trees and I have to go there to pick up the olives, and then I take the olives to the mill to make the olive oil. Yeah, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just few days. Actually, it's exhausting. All the years I'm saying, okay, I'm not going again because
The
it's super hard. But
yeah.
yeah, when you go there and you work for several days there, it's like, okay, it's not that bad code to write code. It's not that bad actually.
So it's not that much of a break when you have to go harvest the olives. It makes you
No,
miss
no,
the
no, no,
computer.
absolutely not a break. No, but from time to time, I go there and I just for a walk and or to check the trees and maybe do some pruning or just looking around. That's more relaxing than picking up picking up the olives. That it's hard. It's really hard.
That's awesome. I'm curious. So, before the olive thing that I threw us off track with, you kind of touched a little bit on your shift to being more of like a community manager and not necessarily taking like a back seat to development, but doing more outreach and oversight stuff, which made me curious about from the origins of RayLib. It started as a really small teaching tool, and then obviously you kept working on it, it kept growing. And you said the community kind of grew not all at once, but like linearly as you worked on it. How has the community affected the development, and how have you managed the community as you've worked on RayLib?
uh, Community takes a lot of time. Takes a lot of time. Actually, at the moment, I had to set in my phone. I said, you know, that application, the digital well-being application, and I had to set limits because I was spending too much time in social networks. Because yeah, really kept growing, and at some point, it's a very big project, and there are many parts involved, not only technically in the development, but there is also several communities running, and there is also well, the examples, the building. There are many things involved, and community definitely or social networks in general take a lot of time. Take a lot of time. So for the last few years, I've seen that the community has taken me a lot of time, and now I'm trying to reduce a bit that time and try to focus again because I got many things open at the moment. I mean, I got Rayleigh, but I got a set. There is a big ecosystem with a set of libraries like RayWe, REST for Resource Packer. I got RINI for config initialization files. I got all satellite libraries around, and then I got the tools. I got 11 tools in the market, published. Some are free, some are open source, some are private and closed source. I got like 3, 4 other tools that I haven't published yet that I would like to finish, but before the end of last year, and they are not yet. So I got so many things that it's becoming quite difficult to manage everything. And yeah, I think community is super important. And I have spent a lot of time. If you are in the Discord community, you probably have seen that I've been trying to welcome everybody when joining the community to try to, I don't know, but I feel that if someone is interested in your tool or your library and you welcome that person personally, it's kind of super nice. I mean, it's kind of super nice. So I tried to do that. At the beginning of the community, I really spent a lot of time trying to help people and trying to answer everywhere. But well, at this moment, it's super big, the community, and it's there are a lot of people in there, so it's difficult to manage everything. It requires a lot of time. I mean, maintaining a community, a social network, or different a set of social network, the community management in general, it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job. Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah. I will say, I can definitely confirm your sentiment about like personally greeting people because when I joined the RayLib server, I think I initially like I joined and then I went to go do something else and I got a notification from you that said like, add Zoogies, thanks for joining, like, I hope you like RayLib. And I was like, wow, this is like really nice. Like I've never had the maintainer of open source project be like, hey, welcome to the community. So I think I agreed that that's like a nice touch. And being on the receiving side, like it is nice. Um,
Nice.
but as far as like what you mentioned about like maintaining the community being a full-time job, um,
Mm.
do you like I know I've seen some moderators in specifically the Discord, but have you been trying to like shift to offloading like some of the community management to other members who might have been like around the RayLib ecosystem for longer?
There is already one moderator, and that is Jeff. That probably you have seen him around because he's there a lot of the time, and he's doing super good. And there are some experts or really experts that usually help in certain topics in the well with the to the community. They help the community in certain things. Um, for the moment, has been working pretty well. I mean, usually there are not many problems in the server or almost any problem in the server. So everything used to work very well. Well, I'm saying that smiling because just 2 days ago there was some problem there in the server, but it is not common. It's not common actually. It's normal. Usually people is super nice and everybody is super nice. And it's true that I do a lot of everyone mentions because uh, I like to, hey, look at that. Oh, look what happens. Oh, wow. I really like to create this kind of engagement. Maybe too much, okay? But yeah, but in general, I think the community is super nice, and I did not find a real need to keep growing the people in charge of moderating of everything for now. But uh, yeah, it's true that the server keeps growing, the Discord server, and yeah, sometimes it makes it more difficult to be there all the time and to manage everything. And well, come on, there are almost 14,000 people in there. I mean, that's a lot of people. Okay, let's imagine that half of them are never ask or never say anything. But even just 100 people or 200 people that sometimes or usually interact in there, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, and from very different places in the world with different opinions and with different ways of thinking. It's difficult to manage a community. I always try to keep the community uh, out of any kind of topic. Actually, there was an off-topic channel in the past, and things start escalating super fast in that channel. And I just that channel to avoid this kind of behaviors and to avoid uh, any kind or any source of rage that could be generated. But even though it's a big community, so it's it's
Yeah.
it's diff- I try my best. I also tries his best. So I don't know. Maybe in the future we are adding any more moderator or more profiles to help the community. In the other side, there is a Reddit that Reddit actually has grown a lot in a very short amount of time, and it was a community that I have to say that it was quite abandoned because I didn't have time. And for the last month, I've been spending some time in Reddit, answering some questions, and wow, it's amazing how fast it grows. Actually, there are not any. I'm the only moderator in there, I think. But yeah, it's growing super fast. It's almost at 9,000 people now, and it happened just in about 1 year, 2 years, maybe something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like seeing that kind of organic growth.
Yeah, yeah. That's another problem because, well, or maybe or maybe it's not a problem. Well, I don't know. For me, it's what I was explaining before. It has been so organic, the growth, that for me it was not like an explosion. It was not like, wow, that's super popular. It's an explosion in popularity. It was, oh, okay. I keep working in my weekend project. I'm adding things, improving things. I keep working at the community. It's growing, so it's okay. It's still a small project, but that's not true. I mean, it's not a small project anymore. There is a big community. There is a lot of people using the library. So yeah, I have to think how how to manage. I have to learn how to better manage everything.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I had some technical questions about RayLib.
Sure.
Well, RayLib, but also the kind of like ecosystem around it of tools. I know you mentioned before, but just for everyone else in the meeting so they're aware, Ray also maintains and I believe you also sell some of the tools as like
Yeah.
standalone programs to do stuff like pack
Yeah.
assets into a binary file or like generate sound effects, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But my question is, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced while developing RayLib or these tools?
Well, major challenges. Well, while developing really, every time that I try to add some of those big features like a new platform or um, or trying to support some specific feature, those were usually actually, for example, for RayLib, the biggest challenge I can remember. First version of RayLib was just using OpenGL 1.1, that intermediate mode OpenGL, very old. But just after that version, I decided to support different versions of OpenGL, for example, for embedded systems, for more modern features, the modern OpenGL. So to do that, I created kind of a layer, like a wrapper, that is the RLGL library. And it was quite a challenge because I had to expose a common API in the in the in the top level that could translate to multiple OpenGL versions, but not only multiple OpenGL versions, including legacy OpenGL 1.1. And that was quite challenging. And actually, at some point, I thought, okay, that's completely useless. I have to remove that because, I mean, who is caring for OpenGL, for legacy OpenGL nowadays? OpenGL from the 92, 94. But uh, ironically, this last year, it proved to be very, very useful to port RayLib to retro consoles, to Dreamcast, PSP, PS Vita. All those consoles have some kind of homebrew OpenGL 1.1 adaptation. So RayLib being able to support compiling with on OpenGL 1.1 backend allowed to compile RayLib for those old consoles. And it was, oh, look at that. At the end, it was useful. So that was one of the porting to different platforms, Android, web, Raspberry Pi. Those are somewhat limited platforms, so it also requires some work and some challenges. And then for the tools, I would say that every tool it's a small challenge on itself, and they are my own challenges. I mean, I choose those challenges. Okay, I want to create a new tool. Let's see what needs the video games industry. And not only that, something that is also interesting for me. Oh, a texture packer. Okay, it's a texture packer, but it's also a font packer. You generate the atlas. You have different algorithms to package the data. You have some features. You can set some parameters. I create all the UIs with the different UI styles. So every tool has different challenges that are things that I want to learn or are things that I'm interested in. For example, the steganography tool. This is a tool that allows you to embed messages into images. You pick the message, you decompose the message into ones and zeros, and then you put the ones and zeros into the pixels in the less significant bit of every channel of every pixel, and you can hide the data in the image. Yeah, for me that was cool. It was okay. It's a challenge, but it's super cool. And when I created that, then I started investigating about encryption. It was a field that I was interested in that field. So I think that project were like 3 4 months. I spent quite a lot of time with that project, and I was investigating about encryption, about about hashing, about how all these kind of technologies work, and well, everything to create at the end that tool. As you said, the resource packer. I create a specific format to package resources. I check Unreal packaging system. I check Unity assets package system. So I check the different options in the market, also Valve with the Source engine, and I check how other engines were doing the packaging for the games, and I end up creating an open specification to package resources, and then using that open specification, I I created a packaging tool. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I think every tool has its own challenges that were things that seem interesting to me. And I wanted to investigate fields and try to make something real, something productive, something that I could put into the market with everything I had learned in that process. I feel
Do
that motivating actually.
yeah. Do a lot of the tools, like the idea for making a new tool, come from a previous tool that you worked on? I know you said you started thinking about encryption when you were working on like hiding data in the least significant bits of images, or like, do you ever have a tool that you're like working on RayLib and you're like, it would be nice if this existed?
Um, well, sometimes it's been more. Well, it depends. It depends on the tool. Something it's things like, wow, I would like that existed. Or let's check the market. Oh, I'm not finding anything that is exactly like I would like it to be. So okay, let's create a tool. Sometimes it just generated by a necessity. Actually, for example, one of the two, it's a, um, a quizzer generator. And actually, I created that tool because I need to create some quizzes, some exams for my students. So, okay, how can I create an exam? But I want to create exams in a way that you have the question, you got multiple answers, but uh, every student has the questions in different order and the answer in different order, and they have some kind of time limit, and they have some gamification in the tool. So, okay, let's see the market. I can create that tool. And I created that tool just for that. And actually created that tool and I was using that tool for several years with my students. And they hate that tool actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I think every tool was in different reasons. Something was because I needed it and I just decided to create it. Sometimes it was because I wanted to learn about some specific topic. Sometimes it was that I saw something in the market and I said, oh, I can some alternative tool like that, but with different options. So yeah, it depends on the every tool was kind of an adventure. For example, one of the tools that I have not released yet that has been well, actually it has been working for the last 2 or 3 years, but I haven't released it yet. It's a timeline creator. I mean, I wanted to create a timeline for RayLib. Actually, no, it's the link in the webpage, but I got a timeline that I've shown sometimes that it's all the events that happened RayLib in the 12 years. And you can see the timeline with all the events that are happening in time and everything. So I tried to find a tool to do that, but none of the tools I could find were good enough for what I needed. And it was, okay, I can create that tool. I mean, at the end, you only have to measure your time, set up the events. I can have a text file with all the events and the category events and the matches and everything. And then just set up. I work a lot with text files. I really like for most of my tools. I got data can always be exported, imported from text files. Because I really like that point of giving the users the ownership of the data. I think
Yeah.
that's important. And yeah, I created that small tool, and actually I published that timeline. And actually now I'm thinking if the link is in the web page. I have to add the link in the web page. But yeah, I created that timeline, and I created the tool to create this kind of timeline. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool. Maybe I can sell this tool, or I can just publish this tool. But then I added that to my to-do list, but there are so many things in the to-do list that the tool is not published yet, and it's, oh, I have to do that, but I'm doing so many things, and I can't find the moment to do that. So yeah, that's it.
Nice. I'm wondering, like, based on the size of RayLib and how often you're working on it and for how long, like, how do you manage when you make a breaking API change, updating all of the documentation and examples?
Uh, well, actually, there are not that many breaking changes. I would say that every release there is probably some breaking change, but they are not that dramatic. They are usually maybe some function that it's not used that much, has been changing the naming, or some parameter has been added, but it's not that common. It's not that common. Maybe it happens to two, three functions per release, but it's not that dramatic. But how I review that? I got set up in GitHub a continuous integration system, like GitHub Actions, that actually every time that some commit is done to the library, everything is compiled, the library for multiple platforms, all the examples and everything. So if everything just crashes, if everything just breaks, I get a notification and I review it as soon as possible, because I like to keep the master branch always stable and functional, because at the moment, from release to release, the time has really increased a lot. It's usually taking me 6, 8, 10 months, maybe a year between releases. So I try to keep the master branch always as much stable as possible. And I here recommend people that just clone the master branch of the library and use that version. That's what I recommend. Why? Because making a release has become really difficult. I mean, making a release requires a lot of things. Require reviewing the library, reviewing multiple platforms, reviewing all the examples, reviewing all the setup, all the build systems, reviewing, create the installer, review Notepad that comes with the installer. I mean, I got a list with, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 points that need to be done for each release. And I try to automatize most of those points, but it's not that easy. Sometimes it's not possible. So I just need to do many things in a manual way, and it takes a lot of time. Actually, it's quite stressful every release. It takes a lot of work. So I try to reduce the number of releases, but the master branch always as much stable as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had another question here. I think this might be from someone in here, but it was what is a feature or design decision in RayLib that you're particularly proud of?
Well, actually, I'm quite proud of our LGL library. That's it. Actually, yeah, it has been reviewed many times along the years, and I think it kept improving a lot, to the point that it can be used as a standalone library outside RayLib as a portable single file header only library. it allows to work in a very, very easy way with many OpenGL backends. So I'm quite proud of that abstraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, back in the day, I was also very, very proud of the Raspberry Pi backend. That with time it evolved to a more generic name that is a DRM backend that allows building or what is called headless systems. I mean, without graphical, without a windowing system, and you can just run RayLib with a basic kernel, and you start the kernel and you can run RayLib with GPU access in just going directly to the display and showing graphics in the display with no graphics, with no windowing system required. And yeah, I'm also very, very happy with that system. I mean, for embedded devices and some kind of platforms, I think it's just really nice.
Yeah. I think what I'll do now is kind of open up the conversation to everybody in the Zoom and see if we can get some like Q&A from other people in the call.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi, Daniel.
I I I just want to say this has been a fantastic talk. Very happy that you're here, and I just want to ask.
Thanks.
So as you were growing up learning programming yourself, how was there any particular like book or resource that you thought was like extraordinarily amazing, or did you just like learn a lot from RayLib, so much to the point that it's turned into this great you like I always see online they say RayLib technologies because it's like when did you know to take this personal project and turn into I guess a company basically? Uh, I don't know. It's to me it's extraordinary that you made this community that you have all these mods and this Discord server that you made so personalized. I don't know. It's so cool, but back to the question. Yeah. So,
Okay. Thanks.
uh, what type of, are there any interesting things that helped you grow as a programmer for maybe for us that we might be able to use?
Well, I think what really helped me a lot is trying to do projects. I mean, instead of doing, I mean, I studied programming in the university. I studied electronic engineering, and I learned some programming there. Actually, most of the programming I learned back in the day in the university, it was very focused to microcontrollers, assembly, very very low level. But at that moment, I was not that interested. I mean, it was fun, but I was not interested in programming. Actually, when I was working in EA or even after that, um, I was not that focused on code. Actually, what
Mm,
I
yeah.
was focused is in creating things. I wanted to create things, actual things. I mean, I want to make games. I want to create things. So what helped me a lot to learn programming is that interest in create things. Is okay. I want to make a game, and I want to make this kind of game. What I need? Okay, I need to code. Okay, let's learn. Let's learn, and let's learn in the process while you try to change your project. I mean, I think that, or for me, it helps me a lot to try to look for an objective. Like, okay, it's not just learning, just doing exercises, trying things, or no, it's okay. I want to do this, so let's try to focus on this, and I learn along the way. Actually, that's something that the university gave me. That it's what I think was the most useful thing that university teach me how to learn. Because when I was studying, I was not, I just chose to study electronic engineering, but I didn't know exactly what it was all about. And I had to do a lot of subjects that I was not really interested in the university, but I had to do that. So I had to learn how to learn to get the exams and to do the exercises and to do the assignments and to do all the things that I was required to do. So I think that's the best lesson I got from the university, to get used to learn. And then when I had to create thing, or when I decide to create something, or I decide to do some project, it's okay. I want to do that. What I need? Let's start. Okay, that's fun. That's maybe not that fun, but I need to do that. So try to follow kind of a discipline, be organized. I mean, I also have, for example, that's my notebook. I'm really, really organized all the time. Okay, I have to do that in that way. I want to investigate this field. Let's see how can I do. Start working on the prototype. Start working on the project. I tried also to complete projects, or at least to some extent, complete the projects to some extent, because it's always very easy when you start a project. I mean, easy. It's very enjoyable when you start a project. I mean, you got an idea. Oh, okay, let's do that. Let's do that. But it does not last that long. I mean, sooner or later, you start finding problems, things that are not fun to do, things that require a lot of work, problems. I mean, it's enjoyable for a certain amount of time. And I think in that case, trying to follow a discipline, or trying to focus on what you can do better, or you can look better, it's important to keep going, to keep going. Also trying to look for what motivates me more. Okay, I reach a point that this is not motivation, it's not motivating enough. Okay, let's see what I can move from that point to make it motivation to stay motivated a while more. Okay, I also have to say that I never focus a lot on the final objective of the projects um, in terms of, for example, in terms of money, in terms of success, in terms of popularity. I mean, I forget about those aspects. I want to do something that I like, and I will enjoy doing that. And if I find a point that it's not enjoyable anymore, I keep looking for another way to stay motivated and keep going. But yeah, maybe I want to reach some point, maybe not, but I don't want to think about the final, well, other elements that are not strictly related to the project. Yeah, probably for that reason, I'm a disaster at business. So, but yeah, that at least I can say that I enjoy a lot what I do. So I think that's
Yeah,
important.
yeah, that's really awesome because I always try to um do the learn by doing, because it's funny
Yeah,
to hear that you say that from school you just learn about learning, not
yeah,
necessarily about it super helping your programming skills, but for me, school helps me learn the concepts where then I can apply it into my own projects. Because I think it's really cool that you also mentioned, or at least Ryan asked you the one question about burnout, because working on one project and then getting burnt out and then having to figure out what else to work on is something maybe I go through that. I've gone through multiple projects myself, so I should, it's really cool to see that you have one, and then the fact that you've like built off like branches of RayLib of all your like little libraries is like really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. But that's in that line. I mean, I'm always in many projects actually. I got at the moment, yeah, in my GitHub, I got like 40 something projects actually. So it's crazy. I mean, yeah, it's somewhat stressful actually. Okay, actually, just today, some people in the RayLib Discord was asking me about the resource packer. Hey, you told me back in the September that you were reviewing that issue, and it was, oh yeah, I know, sorry, it's in the pipeline, but I'm busy with so many things that I just forget about that. And yeah, I always have many projects, but I like to keep jumping from one another because maybe I'm working in one project and at certain moment I'm just not that motivated to keep doing that, or it starts becoming boring in some way. So that's nice that okay, but I have this other project that it's also somewhat connected, somewhat related, but I can go in that way, and it's very enjoyable. So I think that's important to uh, have these different projects, but somewhat all them are connected. So when you are working in one, in an indirect way, you are also contributing to others. So yeah, I think that's nice.
No, yeah, because I still think it's really impressive that you got like other like you basically built a company, but 'cause in your
I tried, or I'm in the process. It's very
yeah, yeah,
difficult.
yeah. Because that's so cool. Because you mentioned you had the one moderator in your Discord. Because I still am very impressed how you could manage a lot of this yourself, having so many libraries. Because like you said, you were literally on PR so long that you made a timer to stop yourself. Um, because uh, because I'm surprised uh you don't have more people that help you do that. Um, but at the end of the day, contributors are what the number one aspect, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not. I mean, adding more people does
Yeah.
not mean that you have less work. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
that makes
sometimes,
sense.
I mean, for example, for RayLib, now there are many open PRs, but PRs need to be reviewed. Maybe the PR is trying to add some new, by some discussion, or there are things that need to be tested in a different way. So it's, it's, I mean, sometimes more
It's
contributors imply more work for me.
yeah. I was
So that's
forget about that
that's
aspect sometimes. Yeah.
that's the thing.
I-
So it's, oh, okay, that person is contributing and the contribution is super good and it's super big, but
yeah.
that means a lot of work because I'm not just adding that contribution. I have to check how it's done. Maybe I have to maintain it because the contributor is not going to maintain that contribution for a long time. So keep in mind that RayLib has been around for 12 years. 12 years, that's a lot of time. So in 12 years, there have been about 800 contributors to the project. But probably from those 800 contributors, none of them, or very, very, very few of them, one, two, maybe, still keep maintaining their contributions or helping with the contributions, you know? So
Yeah.
one thing that I've seen in all that time, in 12 years, is that most people working on open source projects, or many people working on open source projects, usually are ready to maintain a project for 3 4 years, something like that. And after that time, that actually is a quite big time span, they just move on. They just move on to other projects, or they just move on with their life, or just they move to other things. So RayLib has been there for 12 years. So when I have to do some changes or add some features or other, I have to think, okay, yeah, okay, that's good. But at the end of the day, maybe I have to deal with that for the next and years, And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it's it's
interesting.
it's it's difficult. It's
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
really interesting because uh, as open source, managing an open source project is way harder than you have really shown me how difficult it is. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Because someone like me, uh, how how easy or maybe not easy, but what would you recommend for someone like a regular person like me to contribute to an open source project?
Yeah, sure. I recommend. Actually, I recommend. Just a couple of weeks ago, I I was in the university. Well, I'm working in the university at the moment. Actually, I'm finishing this month. It's a contract work. And I was recommending all my students to do some contribution. They were asking me that same question, and I recommend. And they say, oh, yeah, but that's a big project. I don't know what to do. Well,
Yeah.
many projects like RayLib have a contributing document that explains you how you can start contributing or anything. But sometimes it's just a simple, okay, let's check the docs. Let's check the spelling. Maybe that can be written in a better way, or maybe the examples I can add a comment to that line because I've been testing that example. I mean, the first step always is trying to get used to the technology. I mean, for something like RayLib, the best way to start is, okay, let's use that. Let's try that. Let's check the examples. Let's just let's use the technology. And when you get a bit used to the technology, you are checking the examples, and maybe you find some example. It's, oh, okay, in that example, it's calling that function, but it's not clear the parameters that it's passing to the function. Maybe I can add a comment. So there are many small things that can be done. And as I was saying before, the code gardening, anyone can do code gardening, anyone. I mean, like, okay, in RayLib, every time that there is, the brackets are always aligned, or the multiplication division has no spaces, but the sum and the rest always have a space between it. Okay, there are many small things that anyone can contribute to those things. So I mean, that's a good way to start, because when you start, you get used to the flow. The maintainer of that project knows you, and you start creating kind of a connection. And yeah, I think that's the way. And I think it's not that difficult to start contributing in any project. But okay, just I also have to say that RayLib was my first open source project ever. So I had not contributed or created any open source project before RayLib. And yeah, when I decided to use GLFW library, that it's a platform library. It's a very popular platform library. And as I was using that library that was open source, it was my reference for RayLib, my reference for everything. Okay, how should I create the GitHub? Okay, I follow the same abstractor. Okay, what license is using that library? I would the same library, the same license. So it was for me another open source project that I was using in my project was my main reference for my open source project. And I just created everything using that reference.
No, yeah, that's really cool because it's because looking at any open source project can be really daunting. So hearing you say that it's actually not that bad, or at least any contribution is really contribution
It's
is
not
really
that bad.
yeah.
It's not that bad actually. I mean, yeah, actually it's not that bad. I
Yeah,
think
you just get
it's
used to the
easy.
technology over time. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna say, the only thing that I miss from open source projects, and it's something that I try to that's something that I try to do with the community, and that's why I welcome people and everything. Is that for the last few years that really is using open source libraries and everything, I always miss that direct communication with the creator of that technology. And that's something that I try to compensate with the Discord in the way that, hey, I'm here, so I'm just a normal person, so you can talk with me. I'm just welcoming you. You can contribute to the project. It's not that bad. I mean, it's nothing like, I don't know, like a wizard that is
Yeah.
working on the basement or anything. I don't know. So
Yeah, that's really cool.
I try
At the
to
end of
create
the day,
that more human, that kind of
yeah.
more human connection. And I think that's important. And it's something that I missed a lot from many open source projects. That, yeah, you go there and it's okay, I don't know who is behind that project or what kind of person I'm going to deal with or anything. Sometimes it's a bit daunting. And okay, maybe if I try to do a contribution and the contribution is rejected, oh no, I did something very wrong and I feel super bad. Oh, it's not that. I mean, you can try to do a contribution and maybe the contribution is rejected. Okay, there's no problem. I mean, it's okay. Just some days ago, I got a contribution that probably some student that just did something wrong and was trying to change something. It was something with nonsense in the PR. And yeah, it just answered it. I post the PR. I mean, it's no problem. So
Interesting.
I try to provide as much as possible that human side of the project behind the project. That it's something that I think it's not that common in many projects, in many open source projects.
No, yeah, that's really cool because yeah, at the end of the day, everyone's human, and
Yeah, sure.
no, yeah, that's really awesome. Thank you, but
Oh, thanks.
I'm out of questions, but
Cool.
yeah, it was great talking to you, and thank you for answering my questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Does anyone else have any questions before we wrap up?
Well, I'm always on the Discord. I mean, you can't just, well, I'm usually on the Discord, or you can send me a message and yeah, I will answer you. Yeah.
Yeah. I had one more actually before we fully wrap up is like
No.
what are your plans going forward with RayLib in the future? Like do you have anything that you really want to add? Are you looking to kind of step back and let the community take a larger role maintaining, or what are your plans?
I have no plans. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. At the moment, the main plan is maintenance. Try to keep the library stable and fix the open issues, merge the PRs, review some new features that are around. I mean, I don't have a long-term uh, idea for the library, like, okay, let's make it a fully fledged engine or let's not really. Actually, there's an open PR, something that feels interesting to me, that it's a software rendering backend that has been contributed by one member of the community. And I find interesting that line in terms of, yeah, at the moment, really depends fully on a GPU. Okay. And you need to have a GPU to run Rayleigh. But with a software rendering backend, it could run on systems with no GPU. And you will say, okay, but today all systems have a GPU. Well, maybe not in the future. I think that um, embedded devices are becoming more popular every day. There are some architectures that are starting to pop into the market, like RISC-V and that. And yeah, I'm an electronic engineer. So at the end of the day, it's something that feels kind of interesting to me. So yeah, that's, well, it yet anything set in stone. But for example, that's something that seems interesting to me, to allow to run RayLib in micro devices with no GPU. And it's something that it's there. But actually, there is an open discussion called RayLib 6.0 wishlist, that there is a set of points of things that need to be improved, need to be reviewed. There also another thing that I would like to improve is the what that we talked with Jeff some time ago. It's about the animations, the skeletal system for the animations of the 3D animation of the models. That's something that maybe belongs to a more high level engine than RayLib, but yeah, it's something that some people has requested in the past, so it's worth investigate it that that line of investigation. So yeah, but at the moment I don't have a really a long-term vision for the project.
Yeah.
Also note that I don't have that vision because the project technically is not sustainable. So I cannot have that vision actually.
Yeah. I think you could maybe argue that one of the things that has made RayLib what it is today is not having the vision, right? Is working on things as the community brings them up and as you're interested in them. I think that that might actually be kind of like a superpower for you.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe.
The truth is that in general, all the feedback I'm receiving from the community in general, in Discord, social networks, students, many people I interact daily. It's usually very good feedback. I mean, people enjoy using Rayleigh. People enjoy the feedback. It's really positive. So yeah, when you see that, it's okay. Maybe why I need to keep growing it, why I need to keep adding features, why I need to go in one specific direction. I mean, it works. Why not just keep it working and uh, just fixing the issues, the small issues they could have, and improving internals and keep improving it instead of trying to go. I think it looks like companies nowadays. That when you create a company, it has to grow and it has to grow and it has to go into the market and keep growing, and keep hiring more people and keep growing. And it's well, obviously, really, it's not a company. It's completely different idea. It's an open source project and it offers a set of functionality. It's intended to be simple, easy to use, and it's created to people using it enjoy coding. And I think it does that part very well. So that's it.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, it's been really awesome to have you. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to speak with us. This has been really
Thanks for inviting
insightful.
me.
I wish you the best of luck with everything in the future. It seems like you're very busy, so take care of yourself, you know. But
Yeah,
yeah, thank
thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much. I do. Thank you very much for inviting me. Yeah, it was a
Yeah, of
pleasure. Thank
course.
you.
Yeah. Well, take care, everybody.
Okay, thanks.